Nós temos uma explicação, uma negociação também roupa profunda riba e tema aqui. Agora que nada bem sinta na mesa que não para pergunta não, nós temos dois mais na sala, caminho da gente não do público por vai hasi pergunta, então já que o ministro não tem para sinta na mesa, esta beira pergunta não de nós temos na mesa e nós temos dois números de telefone. Quando poi chiama, anto dona una pergunta, un numero manda 6875233, non mi ripeti, 6875233, anto altro numero ta 5200571, 5200571. E persone che tu mi vuoi chiamare, ti scrivi e pergunta, anto mi tagliele, anto non sto puntrelle in sala grande. Bene, anche da stream, riba www.energiaonline.net, www.radioenergiaonline.net, puoi seguirle também in vivo. ¿Tiene alguna pregunta? Se você tem pergunta, cala bem no mic.
Boa noite, presidente Nantur. Meu nome é Edwin Francesca. Então me quero chamar bom bini e pedir forte aplauso para Dr. Professor Paul Gonet. Mr. Paul, I think Mr. Rudolph gonna translate my language. Thank you. También me quiero pedir fuerte aplauso para señora doctora Moses. Doctora. ¿Notei? Esta é o único, me quero que o senhor Dr. Whiteman na casa também pode escutar. Fora de minha palavra, não. Único, tem quantidade de parlamentários não que toma decisão de visa yes na Flouride na Curacao, que está presente. Toch vale a pena para dar-lhe toch aplauso para sobre ela merece. Senhora Moses, se você escutar-me, danke. E para o senhor Whiteman na casa, jammer como tenho visto aqui, vale a pena para estar presente, para também tomar nota de tudo o qual que eu vou para para tomar ensinança mais. Me também parte de Floride, de comissão de floridação aqui na Curacao, anti-fluoridation. Tudo o que me quero apontar aqui é o seguinte. La verdad, si por si acaso mama na estado, antoco e perde you, non nasce ainda, e porta problema e consequência do bebimento de água.
There is nothing in the literature which has suggested that. All we have in the literature is that in China, where they've had aborted fetuses in areas of high fluoride, you can see damage to the bones in the fetus and damage to the brains in the fetus. So the fluoride does cross the placental membrane into the baby. But I haven't seen any study that's linked miscarriages to fluoride exposure. But I hasten to add, very few basic studies on any health issue are being conducted in fluoridated countries. They don't want to find out that their program is causing problems. In other words, I think they're working backwards. For some reason, and maybe one day we'll find out why, they seem to be more interested in protecting this program than protecting the health of the public. And that's a sad thing I have to say, but that's the only rational explanation of why they're not doing even the most basic studies. Even when they're finding harm in India and China, Iran and Mexico, they're not attempting to reproduce these studies in fluoridated communities. So don't be surprised if you don't have studies answering that particular question, because they're not looking.
Okay. Segunda pregunta para Senhor Peterson. Si acaso resulta que no por sacar veneno aquí, maldita veneno aquí fuera de agua de pa el ciudadano, ¿qué posibilidad tiene y qué poquito lo por hasi?
No te permite baudi nos leinan kubota tuma medida nan kuda taxa bo integridade de bo persona de bo curpa. Anto sem base legal, sem lei formal. Anto no momento que governo, produtor de água se ele toca para cometer uma infração de bo direito, anto maneira de Islândia também nós temos sistema de nós lei nan que não usa uma lei com outra meta para qual é lei de donar. Então, tem caso que a lei que não está donar para donar rende remédio, etc. ou produto para fazer um gente duro. Então, me quer que as coisas sucedem na 73 na Holanda, na 73. Aqui não também lo vamos ser para corte, ando lá corte proibir tanto governo e a coleta de añadir flúor que não tem para evitar que a água de má qualidade, para proibir o governo a coleta para añadir flúor na água de beber na Curacao.
Ok, mas danke.
Dr. Moses, danke Kopavini, muito apreciado.
Vamos para uma pergunta que vem de telefone. This is for you, Dr. Connacht. Is there something that we can do to help the child's teeth now, even though we're putting fluoride in it?
Yes, of course. If you have a baby, the most important thing to do if you're well, first of all, if you can breastfeed the baby, that's the best thing you can do. If you're going to bottle feed your baby, please use bottled water. This water would do to make up the formula, not tap water. That's the most important protection. It's that early protection which is going to be the single most important thing. And the other thing is the diet. Keep an eye on the diet. Vegetables, eat as many vegetables as you can. Vegetables, vegetables, vegetables. That's where the nutrients that you need, the calcium, the phosphate, the vitamin D, and so on. And you're lucky here because you have the sunshine. You need that vitamin D3. That's going to help your teeth and your bones. Whilst I have this microphone, I would like to present this gift to Rudolph for his fantastic leadership here. My only regret, now that we've met all the members of your team, I wish we brought more of these presents with us. But Rudolph, would you open this and show the audience what you've got? This is your Oscar. Oscar.
Okay.
Flouride, not in my coffee.
And you are allowed to drink rum in that as well as coffee. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Outra pergunta. Ok, lá nós vamos para a sala agora aqui. Você vai falando primeiro? Ok, meneer.
By the way, I do want to acknowledge, I think it was wonderful that your Minister of Health was here to hear this talk. And I hope, nothing I said was meant to be personal. I think civil servants have a job to do and they sometimes have to obey orders. So there's nothing personal in it. But I did appreciate the open mind, the willingness to come and hear us talk about this issue. She wasn't here.
He is not here.
Oh, he is not here. I changed his sex. There we go. Oh, she's a parliamentarian. Well, I'm glad that she was here, and I hope the other guy is watching on television.
The other guy called the sociopath.
Senhor, não me diz repetir o número do telefone.
The other guy called the sociopaths.
Well, you know, my Latin teacher told me something very important when I was 12 years of age. He said the best definition of an educated person is someone who can entertain his or herself, not with video games. They didn't have them then. Entertain a friend and entertain a new idea. Now, it's that last notion which tells you that there are people in universities with big degrees who are not educated. And it also tells you that people that have never been near a university are highly educated because they've kept that open mind. And that's what we need from our civil servants. Open up those minds. Don't close your mind around an idea whose time has passed.
Okay.
Thank you. Não me repetir o número de telefone para ir na casa. Número nada 6875233. Ante outro número é 5200571. Vamos repetir um dia mais. 6875233 e o outro é 5200571. Ok, Manuel, dá bem.
Boa noite.
Oh, okay.
Boa noite, meu nome é George Benin Curiel e me quero que a maioria de conhecer-me como apresentador de nosso programa e nossa Fundação Come Saúde, Pensa Saúde, Viva Saúde e nosso programa Tour Semana Televisão, em qual nós está dando informação e promover e nosso programa começa sempre com Mi Saúde, Voz Saúde, Nossa Saúde, Saúde. Então, nós a promover durante os últimos 2 anos aqui, continuamente, bebimento de água e tem a categoria emita que eu noite. Eu não está aqui para sostener nenhuma organização contra a Flouride, eu não está aqui de nenhuma outra função, mas eu está aqui como cidadão, como jurisdição, mas é coisa que não está de nenhuma comissão nacional. É coisa que está de nós, cada e nós turmas se lanta para e que com e kiko nós está bebendo água que tem uma substância adentro que está danoso para nosso corpo. E está pensando que eu me tenho 2 perguntas. Para Ridolf e outro para o professor Gonesh. Esse para Ridolf está algo que me awardo atacar com ele. Antes de ter hecho, como eu sostener homem que tem uma agenda escondida para sobra está trabalhando na uma fábrica de água que tem que produzir água para que pouco dia nós bebe água na bota e me quer um contesta franco e honesto de Ridolf se a agenda tem então tá 4 a fábrica de água que nós espera de G. E de 2 perguntas que me tem tá para professor. Professor, I'm very glad you're here today. And I want you to mention me and our people if there is one reason that the human body regards fluoride. If there is one thing that fluoride is good for the human health. Thank you.
That's a very easy question. The answer is there is no known process in the body that needs fluoride. Not one. After 60 or 70 years, nobody has ever demonstrated that fluoride is an essential nutrient. And now even they have admitted that since the predominant benefit is topical, it's not even working from inside the body, it's working from outside the body. It's not a nutrient. So no, there's no reason for anybody to swallow fluoride. It just does not make sense.
Die parti dimi, come mi se contesta, mi che vakos nan cada uno demos nan cara, e sono anche conoscemi, sa, ora mi papion cos, ta essei, mi ta papian, ta essei mi chimen, anto ta e direzione mi ta vai. Mi ta driva camera tambe, e sun stream tambe, e streaming tambe, pa turcosta bon klar. Ami, Rudolf de Wit, nota affilia na nenhuma companhia de água, mi nota bailanta nenhuma outra companhia de água, mi nota interessada em sei, pero se qualquer de vocês tem informação, como está sinta aqui não, como apresentar algo, como ganha, por favor, não trece esse caminho, publique, por favor. A mim, não tem cara para sinta wak bosnang, of topa bosnari ba brug aan te comida bosnang. Si é coisa da verdade. Mi pobi sabo honestamente, anto mi ta sina orgulhoso, como mi pobi se sei, mi nota afuia nenhum caminho, nenhum fábrica. Si, mi ta duna sustém na tur Hende tur fábrica, tur producto nang saludável para nos pueblo. Si, mi ta duna nang sostén. Si, bota mirami den harmonia, pero mi no ting action ide nang. Mi stima il producto nang kunang. Si, bota mirami na kuststreding, ku honor, pa sobra mi dabei compra mi awa inang. Si, bota mirami den otro compañía nang. Pero laganang bisabo, pa sobra sita asina, kumita haya algo dinang, nang timi nunda etasi dolo, inang posquise que ora kunang ke. Ibig say, mita dubisanang abiertamente, hasi, bindilanti anto mostra que en verdad mi tem acción of bise pueblo verdad. Pueblo, mi estimado mucho, e me está hincando muito tempo de verdade aqui, então aceita minha luta para vocês. Me quer corsal, hopi mais saúde que está aqui. Ponto.
É só.
Não me vai ser que a senhora aqui.
Boa noite. Good evening. I have two questions. Rudolf, kiko te sigue o despedi evento aqui na happening aqui. Se te pergunta que nos por favor. And to the professor, you mentioned at the beginning of your intervention here about your fight against incinerators, but
Yes.
you never elaborated. What's the connection, fluor and incineration?
I tell you, the connection is my wife down here.
Stand up.
Yeah, Ellen, will you stand up? It was my wife that got me involved with fluoridation. At that time, I was trying to balance teaching chemistry at a university and working on waste issues around the world. Every weekend, every holiday, I was traveling to help communities on waste. And then one afternoon, July the 6th, 1996, my wife came in and she put a bunch of papers on my desk and said, "Dear, would you read these?" and she brought me a cup of tea. I should have been suspicious. And I said, what is it? And she said, fluoridation. I said, take that stuff away. These people are crazy. I did not want this issue. I didn't want a third issue. Teaching and waste were occupying all my time. I didn't want a third issue, and I certainly didn't want a third issue that would stigmatize me as Looney Tunes in the United States. I didn't. And I started to, but she's persuasive. And I started to read these papers, and to tell you the truth, I was extremely embarrassed. Because when I found out, I thought that these crazy anti-fluoridation people had confused the element fluorine, which is the most reactive element in the periodic table, which attacks everything, including asbestos, and fluoride. That's like confusing chlorine, a poisonous gas, with common salt, sodium chloride. You sprinkle it on your food. So when elements combine, the compounds have very different properties. So from a chemist's point of view, fluorine, very reactive, very bad. Fluoride, not very reactive chemically. But the shock was how active it is biologically. Not reactive chemically, but when it comes into contact with enzymes, and membranes, and G proteins, and many other things, it's extremely active. You don't want the fluoride ion anywhere near your tissues, and certainly not near your baby's tissues. And that's what I learned. And that single fact that the level in mother's milk, 0.004 parts per million, said everything to me. If you've studied biochemistry, you are in awe of nature's methods. She is incredible. It would take us an island the size of Curacao to come up with the equipment to try to copy the chemistry that's taking place in a single cell, with all the feedback mechanisms. Absolutely incredible what nature has done and developed the species, the human species, all the species, but right at the top, us. And the thought that nature had screwed up when it came to what the baby needed in its first meal was preposterous to me. And again, we keep making this mistake. We made the mistake after World War II when we started to put the nerve gases that Germany developed in World War II onto our fields as pesticides. We started this war on agriculture. We saw nature as something to be attacked, not something to be lived with. And the same with medicine. So much of medicine is destructive. We don't get our hands on nutrition. The doctors are not taught very much nutrition at medical school. And it's obvious that they should. And doctors are not taught about environmental chemistry. They're not taught about what chemicals can do to mess up our system. It's sad. It's sad. And then the latest atrocity, and hopefully you can prevent it on this island, but the atrocity of genetically engineered foods, where we have the audacity, the absolute arrogance to assume that we can go in and manipulate the DNA in agriculture and spread the manipulations around the environment, and we're allowing a company like Monsanto that spread PCBs all over the world and dioxins all over the world, and we're still trying to clean up the sediments of the Great Lakes. We're still trying to get those substances out of mother's milk. That's Monsanto. So I'm sorry to go on, but the arrogance of this, again, it's this, you know what the problem is? We can't tell the difference between our educational system, cannot make a very important distinction between being clever and being wise. That's the thing. And here you have the absolute best example I can think of. It is incredibly clever to splice DNA and make all these manipulations with the genetic material, and they're doing what they're doing in cloning sheep. And it's brilliant. It's very, very clever, but it's not wise. It's not wise of our species, and we as citizens, that's our role. Our role is to bring wisdom. We have to temper the cleverness of those PhDs, the cleverness of these experts. We have to tame that with our common sense, our wisdom. We need our old people, the indigenous peoples. If you ask them, they go to their elders. They go to their elders. And please, don't give up and play golf in Florida. The elders, please give us your wisdom. I'm sorry, I go on.
E parti di lo qual signora appunto vorrei mi che nos mi vai conteste de ultimo ronde. Doch signora de Jong. Dus minuto vai conteste vorrei aqui passou nos team plan per disse que me conteste.
Mi tem mensagem que vem do hospital de Dina Veres, com o elevado completo, então com esta roupa bem que com a água está sendo redonda.
Se me demanda de algo, me te sinta aqui não, então me te mira, por exemplo, no saco de nos parlamento, nós temos 21 membros. Então, me mira, estou aqui com o nome de Nanskibi. A mim não te quer que o membro do parlamento que sa liberdade, que o te fluor, que o te su benefício, que o nota su benefício, que o te costa maligno de je. Então, me te precisa seriamente entender que qual é o resultado hopi no Kosovo também. Como te mira que é ainda que tem tiki interesse para educar na mês, para o interesse do povo aqui mês. É incrível. É incrível como você mira ministro de salubridade que o mestre sabe melhor que se quer por bem sinta que não então abre sua mente em ti que então tende que que vive do mundo aqui então a mim não pode compreender que a direção aqui é ainda aqui que é para nosso país vai me tenho visto assim como mira 4 parlamentários entre outros o senhor Kuiman, senhora Moses, senhor Schotta, então com a senhora Jacinta Constância. Pero é completamente ainda aqui a mim te como de aqui quando não te quer não te vai hasi do país que te quer que o povo me se lanta então explica não o que nós te decidir que a sociedade regulada.
Ok, vamos seguir com a pergunta não. Senhora, me dá uma oportunidade.
Good evening. I have a question for Mr. Paul and a question for the gentleman up there. If Flouride is so harmful and damage for the human body, for the mind, and for the body itself, why they keep putting it in the water? That's one. And second, if this thing of Flouride are not connected to the UN Agenda 21, that say that of the population program and deliberately is used to keep people ignorant and stupid? That's my question.
Well, I don't agree with those last two. I don't put any horrible motives like that. If it was population control, it's been incredibly unsuccessful. Incredibly unsuccessful. And as far as controlling populations by dumbing them down, that too is a very, very clumsy tool. So that's not the issue as far as I'm concerned. It's an old-fashioned reason. Money, money, money. If you look at the early days, okay, let's take the real simple one. 1 year before the US government mysteriously endorsed fluoridation in 1950, the sugar lobby in its magazine said, we need to find a way to reduce tooth decay without reducing sugar consumption. They then spent millions of dollars on American universities to get professors of nutrition to promote the benefits of sugar. There was the chairman of the Harvard Nutrition Department, sorry about that, Harvard Nutrition Department, testified in Congress that Coca-Cola was a nutritious drink and also promoted fluoridation like it was the best thing ever. So the sugar lobby was one. Then there's a brilliant book out there called The Flouride Deception. The Flouride Deception. And the thesis of this book, very well documented, 100 pages of documentation. Collusion between the US Public Health Service and the Fluorine Lawyers Association. And the Fluorine Lawyers Association worked for industries that were producing fluoride as a pollutant, were exposing their own workers to fluoride, like the aluminum industry, the phosphate fertilizer industry, the ceramics, the oil industry, and so on, and they were scared stiff of lawsuits, liabilities, and the brilliant idea was to change the image of fluoride as one of the worst air pollutants. It was recognized as the pollutant that had done more damage to agriculture in the 1930s than any other pollutant. Suddenly and magically, this is transformed into a substance which is so benign, you can sprinkle it on your cornflakes, you can give it to your kiddies. So economic interests drove fluoridation from the beginning, and the fact that those economic interests are still out there, still worried about liabilities. One of the big proponents of fluoridation in the United States, you don't hear much about them, is the American Council on Science and Health. American Council on Science and Health. This is an industry-funded fund group that has never found a chemical that they didn't like. And they are out there promoting fluoridation like crazy. So I think there's naked economic interests on the one hand. Now, once the dental community was seduced into believing that this was the magic bullet for fighting tooth decay, and the public health community endorsed it in 1950 after the US Public Health Service, then they've had 60 to 70 years of saying to the public, fluoridation is safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. Trust us. Trust us. Now the payoff 60 or 70 years later is if they now say we were wrong, it's not safe and effective, guess what? They lose the public's trust. And losing the public's trust for people in public health is the worst thing imaginable, because they have other public health policies they wish to protect and keep going. And those, I suggest to you, are very much more important than fluoridation. You see, I can't believe that this is all about protecting or saving 0.6 of one tooth surface. Okay. I just don't believe that that's what's driving this. But if, yes, I've got to keep it short, but if, listen carefully, if they have said to themselves, if we lose fluoridation, we lose the public's trust. If we lose the public's trust in what we say, it's going to undermine our vaccination program. The vaccination program is worth billions of dollars, billions upon billions of dollars, and we know that those people are working hand in glove with the pharmaceutical industry, which has more lobbyists in Washington than congressmen. So that's what might be happening here.
Thank you. Senhor Schotten.
Boa noite. Em primeiro lugar, Rudolf, me está contento que na 2011 nós abrimos porta de governo para a comissão anti-Florida adrenta bem para dentro. Me sabe que a luta não começou na 2011. Nós andamos bezig long time para me que sei. Pero mi sa também que nenhum governo, por meio que o gabinete escota, não dá ouvido na problemática aqui. Lo qual me lamenta, e me lo segui lamentar, que a instabilidade política que nós estamos vivendo na democracia aqui, está permitir que decisões tomar, desde que um governo está cá e seguindo dia da ordem cambiar. Uma decisão a ordem tomar e me sa que o bonota para estar satisfeito com ele. Bota para que 0 miligrama de água. E me explicava que o governo está agora aconselhava sobre é um cupo bisami de sala aqui que pode estudar para handle toda matéria que está tocando um parlamentário ou um ministro. Me está querendo nós também estudar coisa, antes não existir. Passou a pode tratar com lei não de salubridade, mas a pode tratar com lei não financeiro. Então, pode lá que o mesmo ordem aconselhar de 4.000 empregados públicos não que têm expertise dentro do departamento aconselhado. E me avisava, GGD manda adviso para o ministro, naquele entonces, de Salubridade Pública, senhora Jacinta Constância, que é um parlamentário, avisando que, lamentavelmente, nós não temos um underzoek que está indicando de nosso país quanto gente realmente tem necessidade de Florida. Então, nós tomamos uma decisão. 1. Barra o gehalte de cada liter de 1,5 miligrama vai para 0,5 miligrama. Com outra decisão marana de simultaneamente. E onderzoek start imediatamente. Então, 1 de janeiro de 2014, que está 21 dias passado, nós está chega na gehalte 0,0000000 miligrama de nos água produzida por a coleta. Betriano su governo bem depois, Hot su governo bem depois, água tem governo achas. 3 gabinetes, e o qual a ordem bisata que não hace onderzoek, pero não que hace onderzoek tampouco, então vai com o rapport bio de ANAN 90, indicando que tem indicação que 94% de nosso país tem cáries, então pensei me se sigue duna Floride tem água. Então de passo, cambia a decisão do gabinete escota, vai de 0,5 miligrama back na 1,5 miligrama. Well, I don't have a question, Mr. Paul Conant and Madam Conant. I have a statement. Depois que me atende água, lo qual Paul Conant, professor, da 13 dilante, shonan a mim não bebe água de collector mas. Sorry. Me tiu you 2 dias de idade. 2 dias de idade. 2 dias de idade. I have a newborn, 2 days old.
Wow. Wow.
I won't drink a collector's water. I'm sorry. Para mais tanto como estima companhia de mi pueblo, shonan sorry. Ex-primeiro-ministro, parlamentário, você anche dinâmica, qual título que você anche, cidadão Gerard Francisco Schota, awe, dia mais, então me sai, discussão do bebê, o que abo por comprava. Não, não sei de discussão. Mas sim, me sai, me tambi de Schota, me sai aqui que eu tô bem depois. Sorry, Shonan, depois de tende, professor Paul Conant, me não por beber awe. Passou, é circunstância que nós estamos vivendo dentro, então me dá volver a repetir. Rudolf de Wet, me está contento de abrir porta do Palácio de Governo para a Comissão Anti-Florida a 30 e papia com o seu governo. Para você aceita meu dever. Imaginamos se a porta de governo está cerrada para o seu povo. Então aceita o qual está sucedendo no momento aqui. Não tem ouído na algo que tem problema sério de nosso país. Nós chamamos reunião pública, riba tópico aqui. Nós chamamos reunião pública, senhor Rudolf de Wet. Você aqui que resultado está para estar? O resultado está com moção de parlamento.
Senhor Scott, podemos ter mais cordial também.
Pronto, a favor aqui. O resultado da reunião pública está para estar com maioria do parlamento a aprovar a decisão do governo para aumentar e fluorideren, a doses de Floride de produção de água para cada liter na 1,5 miligrama. Então, água, Professor, Rudolph, Chester, before you guys leave, send a practical solution to the people that will decide the same I am deciding from today and the future till fluoride it's outside of our production and distribution of our local water. Duna nang un solusyon práctico, ahora mi tapa pia kuchasa si gumi si mi compra lo cual mi ta bebe na agua de Aqualectra, si gumi é agua de water tá mais barata, sobra de passo, nada tra um cube de água para 3 florin com 37 cent, ando nada vende 9 para 13 florin com 37 cent. Se você quer cálculo aí, portar água comprada em water tá hasta mais barata que o bebê é um com a coleta tá manda via de pipa que por certo tem uma caixa de entre 25 para 26% por mês que sai fora nos grandes. A mim stop de beber água, pero me querer tá bosan de beber água, Rudolf, para mandar mensagem para o povo de Curacao, quatro soluções práticas se não também chega na decisão. Danke.
A practical solution. A practical solution could be exactly what they did in the Netherlands before they stopped fluoridation. And that was to lay on a separate pipe. You could take a pipe for after your distillation, after your reverse osmosis, and lead that to one or more taps in the town so that those who wanted the non-fluoridated water would have access to that tap. Yeah, you could have it the other way, that most of the water would come out of the plant after the distillation, reverse osmosis, and then there'd be another tap, another pipe after you've added the fluoride for those that wanted it. So there are practical ways you could do something right now to accommodate the people that do not want to drink this water. I long for the day that no baby in Curacao is forced to drink fluoridated water. And no baby in the world is forced to drink fluoridated water.
Dr. Conant, how can we know...
Kui man tabayendo into mi kira gis pisavo uncos.
E cosa plak no pa?
Sì.
Atrás. Okay.
Mi ta sterns ribobo, come deve interesse e cambia per nos.
Practical solution. I do not have a practical solution other than what I just said. You can try to stop it via court. You can make your representatives in Parliament do things you want them to do. You need some reform in this country then, I believe. But in any case, I am very happy that I've been warned many times to drink more water. And I'm not a big drinker of water, and I'm so happy about it after hearing what you said today.
Okay, let's see what pregunta.
Yeah, my practical solution is to drink red wine. But from Spain and France and Italy, where they don't fluoridate.
Okay, Banca Signori.
Good evening. I have a question for Dr. Conant. Obviously, I'm pregnant and I'm worried about my newborn baby. I'm going to breastfeed as long as I can, but I was wondering if the increase in fluoridation in our water is also going to affect the level of fluoride in my breast milk.
That's a great question, and I have some good news for you. Your breast is an excellent filter that even if the mother has her levels jacked up with fluoride because she has been getting fluoride for many years, very little of that extra fluoride ends up in the mother's milk. And that was a very important study done in Sweden by Ekstrand in the 80s, who showed just that. If you increase the exposure to the mother, it did not come out, very little of it came out in the mother's milk, breast milk. So go ahead and breastfeed, you're going to be okay.
How can we know that there is no fluoride in bottled water? Because it's not written on the bottle. So how can we know that?
You can't tell, except you can. If the bottle is reverse osmosis, then it should not contain fluoride. So the things which are sold by those dreadful companies whose names I will not mention, Aquafina and one other, that is reverse osmosis. And if you want to be really secure, then distilled water is going to be fluoride free. Otherwise, you've got to call the manufacturer up and ask them what the levels are in their water. If they won't tell you, then you shouldn't use it. But it's sad, you know, in Europe, every bottle of bottled water that you buy in Europe, and for that matter in Canada, it tells you what levels of the minerals are in that water, and including fluoride. And it's very useful. And why on earth we don't have that in the United States, or if you don't have it here, do you have it here? I don't know.
It's very small.
But you should have it here. But if you are drinking reverse osmosis and you are drinking distilled water, please get the minerals that you're losing from other sources. Either make sure you have a diet very rich in green vegetables like broccoli and kale and all that kind of stuff. You'll get the minerals that you need there, or in some nutrition stores they will sell you little packets of minerals which you can add. But distilled water has none of those minerals that we need, like calcium, magnesium, and so on, that we need for healthy teeth and healthy bones and so on.
Okay. Nós temos ensinado pergunta de telefone com nós não podemos mais fora de não cotidiano e assim nós não podemos contestar tudo. Então, me também dá uma maneira que chance de pergunta.
Boa noite. Meu nome é Dr. Moreira. First of all, your picture in Ugly 5, you showed 4 pictures. To my knowledge, 2 of them are called amelogenesis imperfecta, not fluorosis. That's of your pictures. Number 2, I have been reading statistics that fluor is good for the teeth. So that's a counter idea of all the idea of fluor, I guess. Did you understand it?
First of all, I think you said that those pictures I showed were not of dental fluorosis?
Exactly. 2 of them are amelogenesis imperfecta, not fluorosis.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to beg to differ with you. Those pictures either came from Hardy Lineback, who is the top dental researcher in Canada, and I would be very, very surprised.
The picture of the greatness of the spots were too big for fluorosis. So maybe it's the coloring, but it didn't look like fluorosis. Okay? We can show some picture of real fluorosis. The point is, what is more toxic to your body, mercury or fluor?
Well, unfortunately, the American Dental Association supports both.
Both, no, but what is more toxic, fluor or mercury?
I would say that mercury is probably more toxic.
Yes, it's like 150 times more toxic. Yet everybody in this room has mercury in their mouth.
Yeah, but thanks to the American Dental Association, that's been promoting that for 150 odd years.
I'm not finished.
No.
But, you know, if you have an abscess in your mouth, how many bacteria are under that abscess? Do you know that?
Well, I think...
Imagine, can I finish?
I'd like to put this into perspective.
Between 2 million to 7 million bacteria. If that breaks acute in your body, you're dead. Instantly, that day. So if you want to educate the people, put the fluor in dental programs. Let the people brush their teeth. Then you're doing good here. Because there are so many toxins in their mouth already.
Yeah, well, I agree with you that mercury amalgams in the mouth is a terrible, terrible mistake. Exactly. But I think it's intriguing that the organization that brought us mercury amalgams was the American Dental Association, which has used exactly the same rhetoric for defending mercury amalgams
So why
as
do we do
defending
mercury? And the people do
fluoridation.
mercury is allowed. We're putting venom in their bodies, and it's allowed. How can you measure that? The
Sweden
mercury
has
is much
banned it,
more
Norway has
toxic
banned
than
it, Austria has banned it,
Exactly.
and we have
but Curacao hasn't banned it.
Well, but then they should.
United States
They
has
should.
banned
Do you want me to come back and join that campaign? I'll do it.
But you understand what I mean? You're measuring with a lot of hands. Why are we messing up these people with mercury? Let's ask us that question.
You know, this is the same kind of argument that you got when I was fighting incineration. Why don't you stop everybody driving cars? You know, it's apples and oranges. If I stopped everybody driving cars, that doesn't suddenly make incineration acceptable, or that's a solution. It's not driving cars is not a solution to the waste crisis.
We're talking about toxins in the human body.
I agree with you. We should avoid as many toxic
than fluoride. Why are we still putting mercury in people's mouth?
Do you know? I agree with you. In the United States,
let's educate them.
Okay. Let me finish. In the United States, we have an organization called the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology.
Yes.
That group of dentists is a breakaway group from the ADA. It was formed to fight the use of mercury amalgams. That same group is at the forefront of fighting fluoridation. It's the same battle. Fluoride and mercury are both toxic. We want neither of them in our bodies or our brains. We should work together to eliminate both. We're on the same side.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. How much time does it take for the fluoride to get out of your body?
Oh my goodness. The good news is if you stop exposing your body to fluoride, it's accumulating mainly in the bones. And the bones turn over. So eventually the fluoride in the bones is slowly going to come out of your bones if you stop the input of fluoride. But it does take a long time. There may be, and I'm not an expert on this, but there may be substances that you can take. Just as you have chelating agents for toxic metals, I think everybody's heard of chelating agents to remove lead and mercury, toxic metals from the body. There aren't so many substances which take out negative ions, the fluoride ions. And, but there may be some clays that do it, and that could speed up the process. But the good thing here is to avoid, if you can avoid the fluoride in your lives, you can slowly reduce the levels in your bones, which may be significant. If you're in your 30s, then if you spend the next 40 years avoiding fluoride, then by the time you get to 70, maybe you can cut out the arthritis that you might have had or the hip fracture that you might have had, because it's that accumulation in the bones which is so insidious. And whilst you're at it, this is what you've got to avoid. In fish, you mentioned it, in fish, don't eat the bones. If you eat salmon or sardines from tins, do not eat the bones. They're very soft. Separate the bones from the fish. The fluoride concentrates in fish bone and animal bone. Beware of chicken mechanically deboned meat, because mechanically deboned meat like hamburgers, chicken patties, going to have little chips of bone in it. That's where the fluoride is going to be in your meal. If you're a tea drinker, be careful. Both green tea, black tea contain high levels of fluoride. And the tea plant grows very well in high fluoride soils in India, China, Japan, and elsewhere. So if you are a big tea drinker, do what I do, which is to mix it up. Drink herbal tea, which is free of fluoride. Mix it up with coffee, which is largely free of fluoride, and other drinks. Don't stick to one tea. And that, coming from a British person, is very important, because we drink tea all day long. Tea in the morning, nice cup of tea, not a nice cup of tea, tea in the afternoon, tea.
We love tea.
We love tea.
Okay, for Mr. Peterson. tem uma maneira que nós podemos demandar o governo para sacar a Floride for nos aula via missionário e nos leino?
Basicamente, nós temos base jurídico para ter Floride den água no Kosovo, dus obligue, corte obligue de hasi sei. Onde se sono di más effettivo, más rápido também. Pero, aqui na de mira que o parlamentário não apresentado, não potrá lei assim tossi, não que, pero o problema com a meeting, então, metendo o professor Bisa também, é não por nada tem Floride den água, mas se tem interesse atrás de coisa, então, é certo que eu tenho que tackle me te querer também, então, não me te pare.
Okay. If you boil the water, do we get it out?
No.
It's in tea.
Boiling the water is okay for chlorine. You'll boil off the chlorine, but if you boil the water, you make the fluoride more concentrated because it's the steam comes off. The fluoride is left behind. Okay, so boiling does not do any good for fluoridation.
Sir.
Good question.